Hi, is mis Maggie on Dingle Hub, fáilte roibh go léir de go dtí an dara tróna den tra carcagine ag dul ina rúnt, táid anhásta bhainsa. Sa srá seo táid I caint le gnóna in bhúnathe áitiúla, agus an rud ná bhreálín léargus a gháilt ar conas a thusnig na gnóna sin agus cad idir chun an gnó a Albert. Agus tá sim faoi lethe goin leis inmhúnatheacht agus go I brú áitiúla agus sin sin na rudí bhreálinn có I brú a bhula agus a sppraige I gcarcha gaoine mar Harlín sé hena. Hi everyone, I am Maggie from Dingle Hub and we're welcome to the second evening of this series, Dingle Adapts, where we basically chat to local sustainable businesses based on the Dingle Peninsula, and what we really are interested in is getting an insight into how businesses started and evolved, and really interested also in sustainability element of it and how businesses work here on the Dingle Peninsula and support local and work in a sustainable way. So I'm really excited to introduce our guest this evening. Fiadh is a textile designer and hand weaver who many of you will know. Fiadh graduated from NCAD as a textile designer in she got an honours degree in textile design, and basically from then she trained with Lisbeth Mulcahy, one of Ireland's top weavers, who is also based here on the Dingle Peninsula. And in 2015 Fiadh opened her own shop and studio, and from then really she's gained a massive following nationally and abroad, and I'm really excited to find out more from Fiadh, so I will just bring her in. 1 second. There she is. Oh my God. My first Insta Live. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's great.
Yay. So I will start. I'd love to know more about your background, and I suppose growing up in West Kerry, and obviously we spoke before, but the influence that kind of had on where you are today, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just having a little think about all that before getting on the chat with you this evening about the area and what that means to me, and I suppose in relation to now, but it goes way back. So my parents moved here in the 80s, both musicians, creative people, I suppose, and people who kind of have a love for land and I suppose all things natural and cultural. So they were drawn to this place and moved here. So myself and my three siblings, we all were brought up here as well, I guess, in quite an outdoorsy kind of creative environment. So I think that has a big part to play, I suppose, into what brought me back to the place and to kind of set up business here as well. And it's a constant kind of source of inspiration, I think, the area as well, and obviously the community and the people in it as well, big part of it.
Yeah, and I see that a lot in your work, the colours and all your kind of ideas seem to come or get started from a walk, or, the colours you see at a rock or the sea or whatever. So I think that's really, really interesting to see how you use that. I'll come to that a bit later. Can you maybe talk to me about a little bit about when you kind of started to think about this business as an idea, and what was the inspiration for it, I suppose? How did you kind of kick it off?
Yeah, well, I guess, again, it's one of those things, if I think way back, that it was always kind of in me, that kind of like, that yearning to like create something and build something myself. So something creative as well. So to make that into a career, I guess I had no clarity about that when I was even studying. But I did a degree in, like you were saying, in textile design, and then trained with Lisbeth kind of on and off over the course of a couple of years, and did some traveling. And I suppose I just it's still the same. I always just wanted to create and to make what I wanted to make. And I suppose I have so many ideas as well about, I suppose, like the types of products that I want to make and the methods and the ethos behind it, that all of that was enough to kind of drive me, and it still is. It's kind of the driving force behind, I suppose, setting up and running my own business. But the way that I went about it, I guess, it was really like one step at a time. So like I started off with just me and the loom, and then in like a small room, and then it was in a bigger room, and trying and testing loads of different things. And from the get-go as well, you know, there was supports there from, well, the local enterprise office, the Udaros in this area, you know, even just with consultations and help with kind of just getting set up about the reality of getting into business, and making business plans and things like that I never really would have been thinking about when I was like designing, but that's the reality of it. And I suppose yeah, all of that, like the preparation and the plans, like business plans and things like that all was like a big part really in kind of bringing it to what it is today.
Sure. And like, I suppose, yeah, you just mentioned the business plans, and I know lots of people who start business, that is like the most challenging thing, because to put it down on paper, I guess, is really, you're making it real, I suppose. Was the paperwork and that kind of thing that one of the challenging things that you find, or were there other things that kind of stopped you or slowed you in your tracks at times?
Do you know what? I think like that side of the things, like, you know, the paperwork and the business plans and that, like, I suppose the boring administrative side, like I think it's really necessary. So I wouldn't say it stopped me in my tracks. In a way, it was really hard, and there are hurdles that you have to, like the application forms, and you know, you're putting yourself out there as well as a creative person, and it takes, I suppose, you know, like you have to build up your confidence as well and believe in what you're trying to do as well. But I think it's always worth it to have to go through those hurdles, even though it might not be that enjoyable at the time. But it just gets you really thinking about, you have to become clear about what you're kind of working towards and what you're, you know, yeah, I suppose your work is all about. So it's good to be forced into having to do that.
And so I suppose, like, it sounds like you had a fairly clear vision from the beginning then, did you? Or like, I know it evolves and that, but like, did you have was your vision clear from the beginning, I suppose, is my question.
It wasn't really. I knew that that I wanted to make and sell things that I found beautiful. So like what I was actually, when I started off, I was making cushion covers, I was doing like tapestry embroidered pieces, like I was doing my own woven tapestry work as well. It was like bits of everything. And I thought it's like custom service where people just ask, you know, come in and say what they'd like, and then I make for them. But so there was a lot of learning there. So it evolved. But I suppose the inspiration and the work process and that side of it has always kind of been very strong. I suppose I've had a kind of clarity about that, just about the I suppose it's the sustainable kind of side of it as well, that it's kind of, you know, it's all made locally, it's natural, long lasting materials, and it's you know, we're all working with our hands. And I suppose that side of it has always been clear, but it might have taken a couple of years to kind of realize that, I suppose, and to be able to kind of actually be really confident about that as well. You know, like if I do just think about even just sustainable fashion and why kind of, you know, supporting local and Irish and that side of things is like really important as well.
And was, just in terms of sourcing then, was that difficult given that you were looking to be sustainable and have, you know, good products and good, yeah.
And yeah, I suppose it still is. I mean, you know, like I think everyone they can only do their best, and especially when you're like such a small operation, like I'd have difficulties with even finding suppliers because it's such an in-between size. It's a small, but it's not so small that you're buying tiny little hanks of wool, you know. It's a challenge without trying to be sustainable. So it's just, I suppose, in even just something as simple as like the types of packaging, you know, just be aware of, like, let's say, does the paper come from responsible sources? And, you
Mm-hmm.
know, the yarn companies, like, are they using like a limited amount of chemicals? But to be honest, like, in the dyeing process and all of that. But to be honest, I suppose what we can do kind of just here is like, we're like here making and engaged with the community and locally, like, you know, I work with a weaver not too far from here who's doing some work for me as well. So it's, I think even on that side of it, just, I suppose on the basic level of what we can kind of, you know, what I can kind of have control over, it's kind of doing
Sure, and I mean, just also just to highlight the fact that you make your stuff here in Dingle, you know, I mean,
yeah.
that's I love that it's from here and it's inspired by here. And I read something lovely on your website about how your kind of mission is to explore and showcase creative and contemporary possibilities of weaving. How can you talk a bit about that and why that kind of became your kind of mission?
Yeah, totally. I suppose, like, if I even go back to when I was studying, like before, like I went to art college thinking that I was going to do fashion design, and then I realized it was more making the cloth, that just kind of like that I was more interested in. So, you know, we did a couple of weaving modules, and even at that stage, I wasn't that inspired by, let's say, the idea of weaving. Um, and even when I was researching, when I finally did get into it, I realized I love weaving. um, I made it my mission at that stage to try and create, something a bit more exciting, I suppose, in the weaving world, because it is, I guess, like, there's some beautiful, really high quality traditional weaving happening in Ireland and even like across Europe. But there, I suppose, I feel like there's space, for, I suppose, pushing the boundaries a bit, just like through use of color and, just being a bit more brave, I guess, with the design side of it, you know. But then it has to be tied with limitations that we have when in relation to production, like, and kind of weaving designs and the loom that we use. It is quite traditional and simple. So yeah, you have to kind of push the boat out with wild colors. And it's all inspired by just nature and flowers, just like color combinations that I see, that I guess
Yeah, I love seeing that actually, because you know, as a writer myself, I love hearing the sort of the behind the scenes story of how you got to create the pieces that you do. And I see you're wearing some of the lovely pieces now. Maybe you can tell us about them.
do you know, yeah, it's funny actually. It's these colors, do you know, like, I'm sure you find that as a writer as well. You kind of find yourself going back to the same things that really inspire you, in different ways. Well, hopefully that it doesn't get too repetitive. So, like, let's say I'm literally wearing a jumper now. I didn't make this, but it's the same color of like my branding in the business. It's like something in between blue and purple, and then yellow. I call this as one of my lichen scarves. So, do you know the way you'd get, that like really vibrant, almost acidic, lichen growing on rocks around here? So it's just really simple. It's like that pop of color. It's like, why can't I just make it into a scarf and then combining it with others? So there might be like lichen on a rock with like a flower in the background, and you just see the two colors together. So to bring that then into the work, and it's just, I mean, I do it in a simple way, I guess. It's kind of like in blocks of color, but you're still getting those combinations, but maybe in a more kind of a contemporary way. Or
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah. No, it's fab. And I your loom behind you there as well. Your baby. And
absolutely.
is that the one you've had from the beginning?
Pretty much. Like, I had a tiny little kind of a sample loom for a while, and then, I moved on to this one. And what's great is, like, I mean, so I actually bought this loom from, a lady who just lives an hour away, and she had studied the same course as me 30 years previously, and she bought this loom 25 years ago, or well, it was more than that now. So it was amazing, really, and it was in perfect condition. So I just, like, yeah, it was like it was meant to be. It was great.
Yeah.
But the looms themselves, I guess, like the basic, the fundamentals of them, like how they work, it doesn't change that much. So it doesn't matter. Like, if you keep it in good nick, you know, you can keep it forever. It doesn't go out of date.
Yay. You don't have to update an app on it or anything. It's just...
Well, you know, I'd actually be very open to, like, I am looking into like kind of the balance or like future projects where you're putting like handcraft and technology and together and kind of see what you can come up with. So, you know, there's that's kind of looking forward with the craft as well. I guess I'm really interested in that side of it and developing more kind of embracing change in the future while kind of honoring the craft and the tradition as well at the same time.
Fab, yeah, and I love that crossover. What was I going to ask you was what, given your, so actually just to mention a new place that you supply to, or
Yeah.
quite recent, you now supply into Brown Thomas, which I think is fantastic, and it's great to see because I saw them on social media and I was like, your stuff was advertised and I was like, what? That's so cool. What? How did you kind of make your way there, let's say, or what was the...
Yeah, well, like, I mean, it was an unbelievable, it was a great opportunity, I suppose. This kind of this project that Brown Thomas run every year, so it's called Create, where they showcase a certain amount of Irish designers on a yearly basis, and I think the Crafts Council would be involved with that as well, and a couple of different people to just kind of, I suppose, give Irish design and craft, just to highlight it. So I was invited to do an interview with Brown Thomas for that project, and I think scarves were very well received as part of that they decided to take on the scarves then after that, to properly be stocked in store, so it's great.
Great, fab. What, and I need to admit that I don't have a clock in front of me.
Oh.
I don't know if it's, we could talk for hours more. Let's just see. Do you have a clock there?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's 16 minutes past 7.
Okay, so let me see. One more question. What are you most proud of about your business? Actually, I guess that's because it's, you know, we kind of sometimes can lose sight of the achievements that we've made, and you know, I suppose around that, like how, what are you most proud of about your business?
Yeah, that's a good question. I suppose the fact that we're still going, you know, that it's like that it started with nothing and now 5 years on, you know, like it's I suppose it's a growing business and able to kind of stand on it now. So it's all of it really, I guess. It's nice to take a minute every now and again and be like, okay, good, it's working.
Yes, very important, very important. And sorry, my last question, what's the number one piece of advice you'd give to other businesses out there who are people who are either, you know, struggling with their current business or looking to start a new business, or what's your top tip? Yeah,
well, I suppose I will say, like, I think I'm quite fortunate, like, let's say that we can like operate online at the moment. There's a lot of people that are in very different situations, like so we gotten the website up and running before all of this change happened, so you know, definitely feeling lucky that we could continue. But a piece of advice, I suppose, it's kind of like, I just try and stay positive and just always keep looking forward, and like I try to have the, I suppose, mindset of adaptability, because you just never know what's around the corner. So just kind of always just keep thinking ahead, and be ready for things to not work out the way that you think. And just, okay, I know it's not one piece of advice, but it's kind of every me has always just been like step by step, rather than throwing everything in and taking massive risks. It's just like, try this out, see how it goes, and just, that's kind of the things.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us and being with us, and thanks to everyone who's watching. Really delighted to have you all here, and feel free to share the video when it's up on our IGTV, and check out our socials for to see who our guest is for next week. So míle buíochas Fia agus míle buíochas de gach éine atá fechant agus be mí tarnáis ag an áit céine ríist ag seach de clog de cédín secuin. Gur míle maithagah. Slán. Thank you. Bye.